In this video, I'm going to give you 5 reasons why we keep eating away our emotions and 3 solutions to help overcome it. So sit tight. Hey guys, welcome back to another video. I'm Jen. We're going to talk about emotional eating today and why it's so hard for people to stop, or why it's so hard for people to manage. So I'm going to give you 5 reasons why we emotionally eat. The first one being, it's all we know. It is our coping mechanism. And this goes back from when we were kids. It is, if you think of a smoker, for example, if you were to take, somebody smokes for 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, and you take their cigarettes away, suddenly the brain freaks out. They freak out. They don't know what to do. It's like, how will I handle stress? What will I do when I feel anxious, when I feel happy, when I feel sad? What will I do with my hands? You know, there's all these thoughts that run through our head, and the same goes with food. If we grew up and this was our coping mechanism for dealing with any sort of emotion, either negative or positive, because we know that we can emotionally eat for both negative and positive emotions, then this is hard to break later in life, because it's like somebody is taking your food away from you. I know this was the case for me for many years. It was like I always had this notion that somebody was taking food away from me, even though it was, projected and inflated in my own head. These are the thoughts that would go through. So that is number 1. Number 2 is secondary gain. You may actually be benefiting from emotionally overeating or from remaining overweight or something like that. And this happens on an unconscious level. So, this is a psychological motivator within us. Like I said, unconsciously it happens. So it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just something that happens, and a trap that a lot of people fall into if they're not careful. And it's basically, what are you getting out of it? So you may actually be eating because you have a fear of going back out on the dating scene, or you have a fear of being around a lot of people, or it's a protective mechanism for you. There are so many reasons why we keep repeating the same behaviors over and over again. And a lot of times it's because it's actually giving us a secret advantage. Number 3, we associate eating food with gaining weight. Yes, we do. As hard as that is to take in, we associate it with gaining weight. And this is a brain pattern that goes in our head. What happens, we develop a very unhealthy relationship with food over time. And we could say it sounds silly on the superficial. Well, we know that food is just food, right? But on a deeper level, we believe it equals gaining weight, which leads me to number 4, which is we defeat ourselves before we even try. So we like to play a little story in our head and say, why bother? We think of past experiences where we may have failed, or what we think we've failed at, and comparing ourselves to other people, all those kinds of things. And we replay the story in our head, because what is our brain? It's this storage unit for past memories, experiences, traumatic things that have happened, embarrassments, failures, all kinds of negative experience we've had, and we bring them up to the surface. And we say, why bother? So we defeat ourselves mentally before we even try, before we even take action. And number 5, we are surrounded by mixed signals. We are surrounded by mixed signals from advertising, marketing, fitness industry. There are so many things out there and programs out there that are trying to make you feel bad about yourself. It's true. They're trying to make you feel bad about yourself, or they are posing food as pleasure, but at the same time they're promoting food, or not promoting food, but showing food as like this bad thing. So good and bad food. This is where this mentality comes in, because they're promoting products. You see a lot of advertisements, there are a lot of commercials on TV, right, for fast food. The commercials are very geared towards pleasure, making you feel good, making you hungry. All right, you're going to have a better day because you're eating a cheeseburger or something, right? Or you're going to have a better day once you have that piece of chocolate cake or that cookie. But at the same time, they're bashing you for eating it. They're making you feel guilty once you've eaten it. And they're making money off of that. So it's like, here, let me tempt you with a cookie or whatever you prefer, or potato chips. And then when you eat that, let me have the fitness industry come in here, or the doctors, or whoever is on TV right now, who's popular, the celebrities coming in saying, don't eat that, you're gonna get a disease, you're gonna get diabetes, you're gonna get fat, you're gonna be part of the obesity epidemic. So we have so many mixed signals right now, and it confuses the hell out of us. And this is why it's difficult for us to figure out what we should do, and so we end up emotionally eating a lot of times. So those are the 5 reasons why, or not all the reasons why, there are many others, but those are 5 that I came up with for you. Solutions, okay? I'm gonna give you 3 solutions. Now, these aren't the only solutions to overcome emotionally eating. They may or may not work, depends on the person, but they're things that you can implement and you can try that can help you. Okay, solution number 1, break the cycle of the trigger, the emotion, and the behavior. So you can do this in a number of ways. The first thing that I like to implement is mindful eating. You've heard mindful eating. It's basically focusing on what you're doing. So do not eat while you're watching TV. Do not eat while you're reading. Do not eat while you're on your phone. You want to put all your attention on just eating at your meal times. So this doesn't go for emotional eating, this goes for your regular meal times. Because what you're doing when you're eating like your breakfast, lunch, or dinner, and you're reading a newspaper, you're reading a book, or you're on your phone, you're not really consciously thinking about eating, if you've noticed that. And this is where we tend to overeat, because we're just eating, and we're on our mind is on whatever else. We're distracted, right? So we're almost like on this autopilot mode. We're not very conscious. So the key is to become conscious, become aware, observe actually what you're doing, and don't have distractions. Because when you have distractions, even though it might not be so bad, you're not necessarily overeating when you're reading the newspaper, for example, but you are still training yourself. You're still training yourself to form these patterns in your brain where you're using food, but you're not really focused on food. Right? A lot of times when we emotionally eat, we're just filling ourselves up with the void. We're filling the void up with food, but we're not actually focused on the food. We're still focused on the emotion, and it's making us feel better and feel better and feel better. We're releasing chemicals that are making us feel better, but we're not actually 100% focused on what we're doing, and that's where we tend to overeat. The second part of that is waiting. So when you feel an emotion coming on and you feel that compulsion to want to reach for something, to want to reach for whatever food you prefer, wait a few minutes, stop. Sometimes just waiting a few minutes will allow the compulsion to subside a little bit. And you'll notice that you're able to react in a more positive way instead of just reacting or not react at all. Because what that does, it gives you a break and it gives you a chance to get back into yourself instead of just reacting to things, which we do mindlessly. It allows you to come back into your center, into your body, actually be present with yourself and know what you're doing. Then you can make the decision, okay, do I still want this or do I not want this? So you don't have to wait like an hour, it's just a couple minutes. So wait it out and see if it subsides a little bit. And then you can replace with a more positive behavior. You can try that as well. So if something is triggering you and you've identified what is triggering you, say your parents always trigger you, or your brother or sister always triggers you, or a coworker always triggers you, and then you want to react and go grab food. Replace that habit with something more positive. And this is something that needs to be done on a consistent basis, because it's, again, retraining yourself to something more positive. So if somebody's triggering you, then maybe you go get a glass of water instead, or you go outside and you take a walk or get some fresh air. That helps a lot as well. Okay, the second solution is to learn to love yourself again. You know, when you're emotionally eating, it all comes down to love and acceptance and feeling acknowledged, usually. So oftentimes when we emotionally eat, we're not loving ourselves enough. We're not giving ourselves enough care because we're just filling the void with food. We're reaching for things outside of ourselves to fill ourselves up. But you got to fill yourself up first. It's all in you. It's within you. You just have to empower yourself and love yourself. A lot of times we don't love ourselves. And it leads me to the third solution, which is learn to love food again. Stop viewing food as bad. I know you've been trained that way, but you have to stop viewing it as bad and other food is good. There is no good or bad. I say this a lot. There is no good or bad. So if you can come to a point of neutrality, and if you can learn to observe your thoughts and your feelings, and you can learn to become present with yourself, you realize that there is no bad. For a long time, I had a very dysfunctional, unhealthy relationship with food. I loved it, yet I hated it because I would eat it and it would make me feel like crap. And you feel all the guilt and all the other stuff. And then later in life, I realized that food is not bad. I need food for my body. So I want to eat healthier now because this is my body and this is what is nourishing me. But if I'm in the mentality that I'm going to reach for things that are going to make me feel worse about myself and I don't love myself anymore, then what kind of relationship is that? It's like staying with an abusive boyfriend or something, right? It is. It's extreme, but it's kind of the same mentality if you think about it. So you have to learn how to love yourself, and then you have to form a better relationship with food. Learn to love food again. Food is not there to hurt you. It's not there to make you fat. You only think it is because you've been trained to think that way. So it all comes down to those underlying beliefs and remaining present with yourself and knowing yourself and really feeling inside your body. Those are very important things. So if you can get away from the off-limits mentality, then that is going to shift you into a better place. And you can use you can use modalities to help you. You can use hypnosis, you can use meditation, you can see a therapist, or you can see a nutritionist. But just be mindful that none of those things will work if you're not willing to change, if you're not willing to love yourself. You can do all the modalities in the world, but if you don't shift the thinking a little bit, or you shift yourself to a place of self-love and self-care and self-acceptance, then you're just going to be seeking things outside of yourself, like different techniques and modalities that you're going to try. But you're using willpower. It's a resistance that you're using. So it's not about resistance. It's not about willpower. It's not about deprivation. It is not about deprivation at all. It is about balance. And it is about loving yourself first and foremost. That is the number one thing that you can do to empower yourself to want to live a healthy, more balanced life. So I hope this was helpful for you guys. Let me know in the comments if you would. If you haven't done so, please subscribe. I put out a video every single morning, and I hope you have a great day. I appreciate you, and I'll see you on the next one. See you tomorrow. Peace.